Hello, NASA HUNCH students and educators. My name is Miss Brittany Koger, and I'm going to be walking you through the first investigation station for our Lunar Scooter Wheel tire project. You should have already watched the introduction to this video and discussed this with your students. You should know what the project is. We are making a scooter wheel that's going to go to the moon. And here is our biggest issue with this is it costs a lot of money. It costs $1.2 million per pound of material that goes into outer space. So it is very important to know weight and measurement. When we're designing our own lunar scooter tire, we're going to have to know those weights and the measurements. And if you've never touched a tire before, which most of my students have never touched a tire or even looked at a tire up close, they don't know how much one weighs or how large one is. So it was really good to just bring in some different tires for my students to see, for us to weigh and measure. I'm going to show you exactly how that I did that today. All right, so you're going to need some measuring tools. It's the very first thing that you're going to need. I had some rulers. All of my students have rulers. I have some seamstress tapes, and I broke down the parts of a ruler. There's a slide that shows you these parts. There are 16 marks in between 1 and 0. I talked how there's 12 inches in a foot, there's 3 feet in a yard, and we talked about how in the United States we use inches and other places use millimeters. I went off on a whole math lesson with fractions, equivalent fractions, and converting measurements. It depends on what grade level you teach to whether that is important to your standards that you need to cover, but cover as many math standards as possible. So I had my ruler. I also gave my students some seamstress tapes. You're going to need something, depending on what size tires you have, that can measure larger amounts. So I have some pretty large tires here today that I'm going to be using with those students. So I needed a measuring tape of some kind. So I had a seamstress tape, and I also have a little measuring tape here that I got at the Dollar Tree. So it was nice to have that. Also use a yardstick if you have a yardstick. Use whatever is available to you. So not only are you going to need measurement tools, you are also going to need some tools that are going to measure our weight. So you're going to need some scales. I brought a bathroom scale from home, and this is going to be one that if you have larger tires, you're going to want to use for those tires. I have a kitchen scale that you push on and it weighs, and then I have some digital scales. I got these off Amazon. They were pretty cheap. It was about $10 a piece on Amazon. So whatever you have, again, you're going to need to use for our weight. Now, whatever tires you have available to you, later on we're going to be doing a mini tire test, and I have some 3D printed tires that I use for that test, so I use those for my students. I have a RC car tire that I bought at Walmart. You can buy these at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. And I was getting rid of a grill, and I noticed that it had some tires on it, so I brought one of those tires. I have sons who ride dirt bikes and four-wheelers, so I brought in a dirt bike tire as well. And this is the one you're going to need something big to measure this one with. So I'm going to show you exactly how we got these measurements. I also want you to go into talking about circumference, radius, and diameter. I know those are not elementary school standards, but those are something that your students still need to hear. Circumference is going to be the measurement all the way around. So if I put this seamstress tape at one point and I wrapped it all the way around the tire, that would be the circumference. It is the all the way around. The diameter is what we're going to be getting today when we do our length of our tire, and it's going to be across from one side of the tire to the other. We're going to get that diameter, and the radius would be from the middle of the diameter, from the very middle of the tire to the outside of the tire would be the radius. And you can use all of those. If you're a middle school teacher, go into a math lesson with those. But I'm an elementary school teacher, and I don't teach that. So I'm going to show you how we weighed and measured these tires really quick. All right, so the width of the tire, and there is actually a slideshow that shows you pictures of how to do this, but I'm showing you now. You want, and I partnered my students up. I had somebody hold the tire, and then I told them, I said, use your hands. We're going to use our ruler. We're going to put it at one side, and we're going to go across, and we're going to find the width. And if you notice, yes, this is a big tire, but the width of this tire is not that big. It is a dirt bike tire. So if we're designing a scooter, the width here would probably be close to what we would want to use for a scooter that would be going to the moon, that would carry our astronauts, because it's got to carry weight. So it's got to be a bigger tire, but it can't be too big because it is a scooter. This is huge as a dirt bike tire. So I told my students, put your hand right there at the edge, go to the other side, the other edge. Ooh. And that is a little bit more than 3 inches. That would be 3 1/4 of an inch. And make sure that you're using the correct lingo with your students when you're measuring these. Quarters, break it down into an inch has 4 quarters. You got your first quarter, your 1/4, you got a half, and then you got 3/4 and then a whole. So make sure you use those correct lingos. All right, so now we're going to go across. We're going to get the diameter here. We're going to go across this. This would be the length. So we did the width. Now we're going to do the length. And I'm going to use my lovely yardstick because it's a little bit easier to hold than that seamstress tape. If I had my groups, my students, then they could have held the seamstress tape. But we're going to go all the way to the end here. Almost dropped it. Ooh. We are almost at 28 inches. So just a little bit below 28 inches in diameter in our length. Then I asked the students, I said, what do we notice about this? It's a circle. So is a circle going to have the same measurements anywhere? That was a good question to ask my students. Some said yes, some said no. So then we're going to go from the very bottom of this tire and we're going to go up to the very top. Try to get it right here in the middle. There we go. And we're going to check it. Almost 28 inches. So it is the same. So you have 2 of the same measurements on each tire. So after we got all of our measurements, we entered those in the slides. I'm going to get my scale here, bathroom scale, and we're going to put it on there and we're going to see how much it weighs, because this is the important part. How much does it weigh? For costing a lot of money to go to the moon, we don't want it to weigh too much. Ooh, that is 7 pounds. This one is 7 pounds. So we definitely don't want one that weighs 7 pounds going to the moon. That would cost a lot of money. So we're going to want something smaller. We're going to want something more lightweight. Do the same thing with all of the tires. The more tires that you have them weigh and measure, the better. Do your length, your length here, your width, and then your height. And then if you have time, go into the circumference, diameter, and radius if you can go into all of that. The more you go into measurement with them, the better it is. And then with these smaller tires, you're just going to need like a push scale. As you see, this is not even a half of a pound. So kind of lightweight. Those are going to be more lightweight. These little 3D printed ones, you're going to need to use like this scale with just to get a lighter weight on those. So I hope you had fun weigh and measure as many tires as you can. Be paying attention to the tread patterns on tires that you see around you. And I hope you enjoyed this station. I can't wait to see you guys at the mini tire test. That's what we're going to be doing next. I'll see you later, guys.